Fast and furious and flashy, slick and sleek, and in your face. And we're just talking about the uniforms. You know where we're going with this. Mark Rogers TV on the best offenses in college football. We've run down Clemson, Georgia, and Alabama. Now we go out, yes, to the West Coast, and you guessed it, the Oregon Ducks. 33-3 the past 4 years in the Pac-12 under head coach Chip Kelly, who's of course gone on to the NFL's Philadelphia Eagles. Kelly took a strong foundation built by Mike Bellotti and raised the bar, brought this program to the elite of college football. And he did it by bringing in elite athletes, great speed, and running that high-octane, full-throttle offense, taking those athletes, spreading out the defense, creating mismatches, and letting those guys show off, do their thing, work their magic in the open field. Mark Helfrich was the offensive coordinator. He takes over as head coach, so expect nothing different in the offense. Although, of course, he's probably going to want to put his unique stamp on this offense, and we could see some glimpses of that during August drills, but basically the same offense. And on the field, it revolves around freshman in 2012, Marcus Mariota at quarterback. This guy, let's not overstate this. He probably turned out one of the great offensive seasons at quarterback in the history of college football. 69% completion percentage, 32 touchdowns, 6 picks. Let that sink in. We know that quarterbacks are much more ready to play as freshmen than they used to be. The quarterback camps, the elite high school programs, and the coaching of these guys is much different than it used to be. They're ready to go, but certainly at this level, 69% as a freshman is remarkable. 32-6 touchdown to pick ratio. So Mariota, now a sophomore. He's backed up now by 2 freshmen. You've got Jeff Locke and you also have Jake Rodriguez. Locke, the more dependable guy, going to make the right reads and decisions as he showed in the spring game, completing 22 of 28 and 2 touchdowns. Great spring by Jeff Locke, but also Jake Rodriguez in the spring game, 13 of 19 for 2 touchdowns, and he's the intriguing one. He's got the big arm and the elite speed and athleticism. Now we turn our attention to running back at Kenyon Barner after that gaudy 2012. He's gone to the NFL and replaced, in a sense, by DeAnthony Thomas, who, of course, got plenty of action in 2012. 701 yards rushing, 7.6 yards per carry. Talk about gaudy stats. And 11 rushing touchdowns. Those are the rushing stats for Thomas, and he's probably the best wideout on the field at running back. He's backed up by Byron Marshall, who had a nice spring game, 6 carries, 60 yards, and 1 touchdown. And also, incoming freshman Thomas Tyner, the 6th rated running back according to ESPNU. So Tyner and Marshall going to vie for some carries behind DeAnthony Thomas. At wide receiver, there's going to be playing time for all sorts of guys because this has never been an offense under Chip Kelly and now Helfrich that features 1 or 2 guys that catch 75, 80, 90 passes. They got a bunch of guys going to catch 20, 25 receptions. It starts with Josh Huff, the senior this season, caught 32 last year, 493 yards and 7 touchdowns. The guy that really intrigues us is Bralon Addison, now a sophomore, caught 22 for 243 and 3 touchdowns as a freshman. He did disappear down the stretch. They didn't look his way against USC and Oregon State and Stanford and also Kansas State in the bowl game. He did most of his damage early in the season, but he had a great spring game. 8 catches, 136. Keenan Lowe, another one of these guys, 22 catches, 244 and 3 touchdowns. Had a nice game against Stanford. Of course, Oregon's only loss. Keenan Lowe caught 5 and a touchdown. Darrell Hawkins, another guy, 25 receptions, 202 yards. Had his best game against USC with a touchdown reception and 35 through the air. Eric Dungy caught just 5. He's a junior. He's going to really have to step it up to keep up with these guys and get some playing time. Now we run down also B.J. Kelly, who caught 6 passes and 2 touchdowns, and one of those in the Civil War against Oregon State. Now we move to the freshman coming in. Well, we've got one more sophomore who was an elite freshman, Dwayne Stanford, the 23rd rated wide receiver by ESPNU coming out of high school. Again, he caught 6 passes last season for Oregon. 2 excellent wide receivers coming in. The 55th rated guy, coming out of San Diego is Tyree Robinson, and then you also have Darren Carrington, who's rated a top 50 wide receiver coming out of high school. And the tight end caught 25 for 6 touchdowns. That's Colt Lairla. So there's the offensive weapons. There's guys all over the place. 13 wide receivers on the roster that look to see playing time. Lost some offensive line depth. Of course, Ryan Long, highly drafted. Also, Ryan Clanton and Nick Cody are going to be big losses, but you've got an all Pac-12 center in Hronis Grasu, and also Jake Fisher and Tyler Johnstone, who got significant playing time last year for Oregon. Look out for this, people. Despite this offense and what it's done in lighting up scoreboards and completely intimidating and overwhelming opponents for the most part, playing elite defenses, going back to the 2010 Rose Bowl against Ohio State, then in the championship game of the BCS against Auburn. We saw it against LSU a couple of years ago, and we've seen it a few times against Stanford. This offense against a really good NFL-ready defense with NFL players all over the place, with the speed and the system to stop it, and especially when having some time like LSU did in the opener and Ohio State and Auburn in postseason play, this offense has been slowed down, but for the most part, overwhelming, and will be again with Mariota back as a sophomore, DeAnthony Thomas, and then all that wide receiver talent, and the tight end very dependable as well with 6 touchdown receptions last season. Talk Oregon offense with us, and you can talk about the uniforms as well. We'll let you right here on Mark Rogers TV.